Hello everybody and welcome, I am Bricker Boom, and today we're getting extra spooky. Today, we're going to be letting the Lord of the Underworld take a shot at a solo challenge in a game that I honestly don't play too often. Today, we're going to see if I can beat the game Pokemon Platinum with only a Giratina. Now, chances are the answer to that is going to be a resounding yes, given the fact that it is a legendary Pokemon. To look at its stats, Giratina is a bulky Pokemon with really good stats all around, with its HP being the highest. The good news is, it doesn't matter whether we go off special or physical attack, since both of those are the exact same. Its typing, however, is interesting, being Ghost and Dragon. It'll mean in the beginning of the game will be a cakewalk, since normal type moves won't be able to affect us. From a moves perspective, the level up side of things is okay. There's two moves that we can use to get a potential Omni boost, but the TMs that it can learn is absolutely bonkers, though I will probably end up mostly just using the level up moves because Omni boosts are kind of incredible. The story of the little Pokemon devil that could begins like pretty much any other Halloween stories, with a hyperactive neighbor saying he'll charge us a ridiculous amount of money if we lose a foot race with him. For this run, we give the rival Chimchar, and in hindsight, I think we should have gone with another. Given our ghost typing, its fighting moves won't be able to hit us as time goes on, but it does seem to learn a decent bit of fire moves as well, so I guess it probably doesn't matter too much at the end of the day. Now, admittedly, I have considered for legendary runs like this, giving the rival a legendary as well, preferably one that is able to fight back. Let me know if that'd be something you're interested in seeing. I don't know, it's up to you. But I would cover this battle, but is it any surprise that we went in 2 shots? Also, if you like this kind of content, make sure to go ahead, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know that you like this kind of content, and then that means I can go ahead and keep making it for you. Anyway, we have a brave nature, which means we have a higher attack and lower speed. Giratina will likely still end up outspeeding things as we go along, but having a higher attack isn't something you're going to hear me complain about. Now, there is another fight with Barry on the way to Orberg, but this goes about how you'd expect it to be honest. The first few battles are going to be pretty easy given the fact that we have a dragon move. It honestly probably won't be until we get to Byron that we have any kind of type disadvantage that I can immediately think of. And it's just because Steel type has so many resistances. But we do go ahead, fight Rourke, and he starts with Geodude, and we open up with Ominous Wind to take it to red. It uses Stealth Rock, then Rourke heals as we take it down with another Ominous Wind. Cranidos is out, and Pursuit does decent damage as we take it to half, then take it out with a crit after a heal up. Last up, we have Onyx, and we take it below half as Rock Throw connects, and then we take it down with a Dragon Breath to win the battle, and the first of the gym badges. After that, it's some pretty easy travel, and we find Professor Rowan verbally destroying some Team Plasma grunts. After that, we have a little bit more travel, and we find ourselves in Floroma Town. Also, if I'm mispronouncing these, I apologize. Like I said, I don't play this game often. Here is where they introduce the worst possible way to catch Munchlax, with honey trees. Because as far as I can remember, and by all means correct me if I'm wrong, you can only get a Munchlax from one tree, and it changes at random during every single playthrough that you have. But aside from that, this town actually holds a demon as well, that you get to face after unlocking the Valley Windworks. The Nuzlocke Ender herself, Commander Mars. Mars sends out Zubat, and then we use Dragon Breath, taking it to red and paralyzing it as it uses Bite. The next turn, we can take it out. Next up is Perugly, and it uses Feint Attack as we use another Dragon Breath. We can take it to 20 HP on a crit, then knock it to red as the berry activates. Another Feint Attack takes us to 6 HP, and then we can take it out to barely win the battle. On a third attempt due to multiple crits on the first two. We do have some more travel ahead, and for a solo challenge, the portion of Through the Forest with Cheryl is amazing. From a Nuzlocke perspective, especially when you're trying to catch something, it's an absolute nightmare. I also found out that during stream, this is where a lot of people choose to do their shiny hunting, since encounters pop up 2 at a time. Also, if you haven't yet, make sure to follow me on Twitch. I usually start runs there, and depending on how things go, for better or for worse, I'll try to finish them on there as well. I typically can only stream once a week, given the fact that I do have a full-time job, a kid, and try to post these once a week, and sometimes it's just easier being offline and knocking out the challenges without trying to entertain people, but it's up to you. Anyway, we get into the next town and make a beeline for the gym. Gardenia shouldn't be too difficult, though if she sets up Leech Seed, I could see her taking a couple of attempts, but we make our way through the trainers, and then it's time to challenge her. Gardenia starts with Turtwig, and we open up with Ominous Wind, hoping for an Omni boost as it sets up Reflect, and we can take it down next turn. Cherrim is next, and it uses Safeguard as we take it to almost half with Ominous Wind and get the boost, then take it down next turn. Roserade is last, and we use our last Ominous Wind, taking it to half before the Berry procs and Reflect wears off. We take it to red with Dragon Breath and get paralyzed. Gardenia potions up, and then we can take it to almost half again. Grass Knot doesn't do much, and we can take it down a few turns later. This did take 3 or 4 attempts, mostly due to bad paralysis luck. Giratina is definitely able to win these battles, but sometimes the RNG just is not on our side. So with that gym out of the way, we have a bit more Team Galactic stuff to go ahead to knock out, and then after that we can head to Hearthome City, and in turn, my favorite gym. More often than not, with this game especially, you'll hear me complain about the length of the game, but then doting on each and every one of the gym leaders and designs. For the most part, while the game is long, I love the design aspect of this game. We do go ahead and we fight through a majority of the trainers, mostly due to the doors changing spots and partly because Fantina is going to pack a punch given our partial typing, and then we go ahead and challenge her. Fantina first sends out Duskull and we open with Ominous Wind, mostly to see if we can get the boost, but also because it does super effective damage. We don't get the boost, but we do take it down. Miss Magius is next, and it hits us with Confuse Ray. We land an Ominous Wind, taking it below half. It hits with Shadow Ball, and we smack ourselves, then get taken to 37 HP. We can then take it down next turn. Haunter is last, and it uses Shadow Claw, taking us to 21 HP, but we can take it out for another narrow victory, and that one was actually a first try. Well, I wasn't 100% sure we'd be able to pull that off, especially after we hit ourselves, but that's another badge down, and so far, Giratina is performing about like you'd expect. Legendaries, from my experience, tend to only struggle in the late game. Reason for that, typically, is that by the time you get to around Gym 7, the levels are starting to catch up to you. Legendaries are in that slow level up category, so even fighting all the mandatory trainers can sometimes leave you lacking a little bit in levels. But we do have a berry fight pretty much immediately afterwards. Staravio's first, so we open with Dragon Breath, taking it to red and paralyzing it as it double teams, and then we swap to Ancient Power for the possible boost and the super effective damage. Weasel's next, and we use Dragon Breath, taking it out in one shot. Monferno is next, and I used Ancient Power for a bit, but I really should have given the rival a different starter, because we just take it down a few turns later. Rosalia is last, and we use Dragon Breath, taking it to what I have to imagine was 1 HP, getting the full para, and then taking it out. Alright, so we're once again on the road, and now this time around I've finally played the game enough that I know which battles we can do 2-on-1 approach, and which battles are probably just going to be safer for us to do one at a time. In no time flat, we'll be ready for the fighting gym, but while we're traveling, if there are any Pokemon that you want to see a run of, make sure to let me know in the comments below. While I primarily do Fire Red runs, mostly due to the algorithm being quite unkind with other generations, I'm not opposed to playing other games. In fact, I actually really enjoy Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and I also enjoy Emerald, and now that I'm more comfortable with the game, I'm starting to enjoy this one as well. I just wish it was a little bit shorter. After that, we go sightseeing, meet Cynthia, break into Team Galactic's place. Clearing that, of course, we do have some travel ahead of us, and probably my favorite gym design with this game. I've said this before, I may not be familiar with this game, but I've always loved the gym's designs. If this game were a little bit shorter for the Team Plasma stuff, this game would actually be perfect for me, and that's even with the Distortion world. But let's go ahead, take a look, see how the fight against Maylene is going to go. She starts with Meditite, and we open with Ominous Wind, knocking it out in one go. Machoke is next, and we take it to about half, and it only uses a weak Rock Throw before going down. Last up is Lucario, who resists most of our moves, but we resist theirs, so even though there's a good chunk of going back and forth, we eventually do end up taking it down for the victory. From this point, Crasher Wake is going to be the next gym leader that we go against, and truth be told, I'm actually not sure if we can beat him at our current level. Crasher Wake has a nasty Gyarados that will not only lower our attack, but also deal super effective damage with Bite. Then, we'll have the Floatzel to deal with, and it knows Ice Fang, which, you guessed it, is super effective. I doubt it'll take quite as long as the Gibble run that I did, but I can't help but have flashbacks whenever I play this game of that particular run. But before we get to all of that, we do have a rival fight to go ahead and take care of first. Barry sends out Staravia, and we open up with Ancient Power, taking it to red and knocking it out. After that is Weasel, and we use Ominous Wind to take it to red and then knock it out. Rosalia goes to a bit under half with Dragon Breath and does Leech Seed us. A few turns later, though, we take it out. Last up is Monferno, and Flame Wheel doesn't do much, but Leech Seed does. It takes us to 41 HP, we get Sap to 31, Burn to 13, and then barely managed to knock it out. Had I played that a bit smarter, I probably wouldn't have been knocked down to such low HP, but meh, content. With Crasher Wake's gym, we go ahead, take out the trainers inside, and then start the battle. Wake starts with Gyarados, and we open with Ancient Power, mostly trying to get a boost to somewhat negate the Intimidate that we just suffered. And Ancient Power takes it to red as Bite takes us to half, and then Wake heals as we keep using Ancient Power. By the time we take it down, we only have 50 HP left. And next up is probably the biggest threat, Floatzel. Crunch does a lot of damage, and since we don't get the Para on Dragon Breath, it outspeeds the next turn and knocks us out. The next attempt, we use Ancient Power and it retaliates with Bite, just like before. The main difference in this particular battle, after the heal up, we actually end up getting the Omni Boost. Then, when Floatzel comes out, we can take it below half as the berry heals up, and Crunch isn't doing nearly as much, so we can take it out next turn. Last up is Quagsire, and we Dragon Breath it to yellow as Mudshot connects, and then it too goes down to win us the battle. Alright, that wasn't too bad. And now we have a lot of storyline stuff to cover in the next bits of the game. Now, I wanted to complain for just a moment because I never get defog, partly because I forget where it is every time. But whoever thought the fog mechanic was going to be a good idea, I just want to talk to you for a minute. I don't know the exact calculations, but the amount of times that I have to run back to the Poke Center to make sure we have adequate PP to get through the next battles is awful. Again, I know this is my fault, and I have no one to blame but myself, but I'm still going to blame the game devs in this case. After that, there is one Cyrus fight, and while this one isn't typically too difficult, I mainly wanted to cover it because of how much his team escalates between now and the last battle. I won't cover any of the other ones because it is just kind of beating the dead horse at that point, but the first battle and the last battle are incredibly important, I think. Sneasel's first, and Ice Punch does a good chunk of damage as we use Dragon Breath, paralyze it, then outspeed it next turn to take it out. Murkrow is up, and Feint Attack does solid damage, but 2 Dragon Breaths are enough for the job. His last mon is Golbat, and we just continue with pressing A, only swapping to Dragon Claw for the boosted damage after paralyzing it. Once we get to Canalave City, it's time for one of the best shots in the game, and that's the battle on the bridge. Barry starts with Staraptor and double teams as we miss once, then take it to yellow. Aerial Ace doesn't do much, and then we can knock it out. Floatzel's out, and Pursuit isn't hitting too hard, and it goes down to 2 Dragon Breaths. Out comes Heracross, and Dragon Claw crits to one-shot it. Infernape is next, and it hits with Aerial Ace, but we can take it down a few turns later with not much HP remaining, but we do get a level up. His Pokemon last is Roserade, and we take it to yellow. It misses Grass Whistle, and then we knock it out. And it wasn't until I got to this gym that I truly remembered how poorly it was probably going to be. it takes us a lot of turns, and that's just to take out the trainers inside the gym. Obviously, we'll be battling most of them to get a little experience, but let's go ahead and see how the fight against Byron goes. Magneton is first, and Ancient Power barely does anything as Metal Sound lowers our special defense. We continue to ping away, and then Flash Cannon absolutely wrecks our day despite getting an Omni Boost next turn. Knowing he has a full team afterwards, we just kind of end up starting over at that point because it was just going to be a losing battle. So fun fact, I actually did end up leveling up after about a dozen attempts, but on the level up attempt, I never realized that I forgot to save and tried about 6 more times at the lower level. And at the lower level, with Magneton, we get a crit with Ominous Wind and a boost, and when he withdraws to Steelix, we get another boost and another boost, so we're basically shrugging off most attacks when we take it down. Bastiodon is next, and we take it below half as it uses Iron Defense. Thankfully, we can still do decent damage, though Byron does end up healing up, trying to bulk up further with Iron Defense, and we eventually take it down. Magneton comes back out afterwards, and we can take it down pretty easily as well. I don't know how I got so lucky with so many boosts, but you're not going to hear me complain. Alright, one more gym to go and a lot of plot to get through as we start getting closer to wrapping this game up. As we're going through this, I just remembered we have an ice gym coming up, and that will be a bit of a nightmare, though admittedly, getting there will also be a bit of a nightmare. In the past, because of all the snow and everything swirling around, it was a little hard on the graphics on my totally legit console, and it actually made the game crash. Because of that, I usually end up playing this at the speed the game was meant to be played, or even slower, just to make sure that I don't run into any problems. But we are lucky enough that we make it through without any hiccups this time, and then it's time to go ahead and fight Candice, and her team is terrifying. Candice first sends out Sneasel, and it opens with Feint Attack, hitting us with a crit as we take it to a sliver with Dragon Claw. She heals up, and we get a low roll on the damage to leave it alive as it takes us to 90 HP before it goes down. Next up is Frostlass, and it uses Blizzard and absolutely wrecks us. I don't think we'll need to level up, but I do think an Omni Boost is needed to get through, and it does take 12 attempts in, but rather than get that, we go ahead, we still take the Sneasel down in a couple hits, but with the Frostlass, it just ends up using Double Team. We get a critical hit against it, and then knock it out in one shot before it can knock us out. The Piloswine is out, and Dragon Claw takes it below half as it only sets up Hail, so it goes down. And then last up is Obama Snow, and we take it to exactly half as Avalanche connects. Hail takes us to 11 HP, and we can take it out to narrowly win the battle. And without the Omni Boost. Still an insane amount of luck with the crit and non-attack, but not an Omni Boost. After that, we're going to go ahead and do a good chunk of fast-forwarding here. We have a lot of story plot to take out, and nearly back-to-back battles with Cyrus. I won't be covering the first one like I stated earlier, mostly just due to the fact that they're so close together. After we get through the Distortion world, we'll be able to take on the final gym, and then get to the Elite Four. Cyrus first sends out Houndoom, and we can take it out of one Dragon Claw. Weavile is a problem because it does so much damage with Ice Punch, and we don't take it out, so it just takes us out with Night Slash. Sometimes, if we're lucky, we can get a little bit further in the fight, but more often than not, Weavile's just able to take us out. Between the Ice and Dark-type moves, it's a rough Pokemon, so for the first time officially in this run, I end up having to level up. Now, all the way at level 60, we're actually still using Ancient Power at this point against it. Aside from Will-O-Wisp, there isn't a lot that it can actually do against us, and now we get the boost, so with the boost, we actually outspeed Weavile and one-shot it while getting another boost. Next up is Honchkrow, and it goes down to one shot. With two boosts, we outspeed and one-shot the Crobat, and then, even with the Intimidation drop from Gyarados, we can actually still take it down in one shot to finally win this battle. Now, this battle is important. The one against Giratina, because there can be only one. And we one-shot it. Let's go ahead and go fight Naruto's dad to get that final gym battle. Now, the good news is, We learn Earth Power along the way, and it's finally time to say goodbye to Dragon Breath. While Dragon Breath is useful because it does have that para chance, we kind of need the raw power a little bit more. Given the fact that we learn Earth Power before going to the Electric Gym, I mean, for the first time since starting this run, we're just able to one-shot through the entirety of his team. At least I think it's the first time. Either way, it's a very easy battle, and that means that it's time to go ahead and head through Victory Road, and that means we only have a handful of fights left. Before we can fight the Elite Four, though, we have to put Barry in his place one last time. I know I give Barry a lot of smack talk, but he's definitely an entertaining rival who does get humbled constantly with the trash talk and the fact that he very soon gets absolutely destroyed. He's kind of like the Vegeta of this game. Barry starts with Star Raptor, and we open up with Ancient Power for a clean one-shot and getting a level up. Next up is Floatzel, and we use Dragon Claw, taking it to red as Crunch connects, then we take it out. Roserade is out, and we take it to yellow with Earth Power. It hits a weak attack, then goes down. Out comes Heracross, and Dragon Claw takes it to yellow as Night Slash does a bit of damage, then it too goes down. We use Dragon Claw against his Infernape to take it down in one shot. Finally, there's Snorlax, and we Earth Power for not so much damage as I'd hoped. Crunch actually critical hits against us, doing a good deal of damage, and we do get taken all the way down to 45 HP before taking it out to win the battle. Elite Four time, let's see how we do. Aaron is first and sends out Yanmega, and we use Ancient Power, taking it out in one shot. Next out is Drapion, and we swap over to Earth Power, taking it out in one go. Caesar is next, we continue with Earth Power since we honestly have no better options, and it does land a Night Slash before it also goes down. Heracross is next, and we get a much-needed critical hit to take it down, and then, when Vespiquen comes out, we knock it out with one Ancient Power to win the first of the Elite Four. Next up is Bertha. Bertha starts with Whiscash, and we use Earth Power, taking it to not quite half as it sets up Sandstorm. We swap over to Dragon Claw to take it out. Next up is Gliscor, and we swap to Ancient Power, doing not so great damage as Earthquake does a little bit. We swap to Dragon Claw, taking it to red, and we get a critical hit Earthquake. Bertha heals up, and we continue to trade attacks back and forth, eventually taking it out, but we only have 58 HP left. Hippowdon is next, and we can use Ominous Wind for some pretty solid damage, but it just puts us to sleep with Yawn, and we go down even before the sleep actually kicks in. This does take a few attempts, but now we go ahead and we start opening with Ominous Wind against Whiscash, and on the second one, we actually get the boost. Bertha heals up, and we continue with Ominous Wind actually getting a second boost, then take it down. Gliscor is next, and we can continue using Ominous Wind, and Earthquake is barely touching us at this point as it goes down. Hippowdon is out, and we use Dragon Claw, taking it to red as it misses its attack and goes down. Rhyperior is next, and is scary with Icicle Crash as we take it below half and the berry activates, then it goes down. Last up is Golem, and we take it to red. Earthquake and Sandstorm takes us to 22 HP, and then Bertha heals. We get knocked all the way down to 3 HP, then barely knock it out to win the battle. That was a bit rough, not as bad as I would have thought. Next up is Flint, and given our moveset and the fact that in this version he actually has fire types and not a low punny, I feel pretty good about this. Flint starts with Houndoom, and we use Earth Power, knocking it to what I have to imagine is 1 HP as it retaliates with a strong Dark Pulse. Flint does heal, and we knock it out with our next Earth Power. Next out is Flareon, and we take it to red as it uses Will-O-Wisp and Connecting before going down. We have Infernape next and take it down with 1 Earth Power. Rapidash is up, and we use Earth Power to take it out as well. And then last but not least is Magmortar, and we use Earth Power to take it to yellow as it hits with Flamethrower. The burn then takes us down to 20 HP, but then we barely take it out to win another narrow victory. Lucian is the last of the Elite Four, and his Mr. Mime goes to red and only sets up Barrier. Lucian heals, and then Mr. Mime goes down. Espeon is next, and it hits with Shadow Ball as we take it to red with Ominous Wind, then take it down. For Bronzong, we take it below half as Psychic hits, then Reflect wears off as we take it out. Alakazam is out, and we swap over to Dragon Claw to knock it out in 1 shot. Last up is Gallade, and we use another Dragon Claw, taking it out as well. And now it's time to head on to the person that probably awakened most teenage boys, Cynthia. Cynthia uses Spiritomb, and we use Ominous Wind for not a whole lot of damage, as Dark Pulse hits for solid damage. We swap to Dragon Claw, taking it out. Next is Garchomp, and it misses Dragon Rush, and we take it to a quarter, then the berry heals it up. Dragon Rush does hit hard, but we do manage to take it out. Lucario is next, so we use Earth Power, taking it to red, then Shadow Ball hits us as Cynthia heals up, but then we can take it down. Milotic is next, and we take it to not quite half as Ice Beam connects, and we go down. I want to go ahead and try that a few more times. Yes, Dragon Rush is hitting like a freight train, but it's kind of supposed to. I think we can win this without leveling up. And about 6 attempts in, we use Ominous Wind and get the boost against Spiritomb, but it actually does get a critical hit against us, taking out a good deal of damage before it goes down. Garchomp is next, and with the boost, we can actually take it out in one go. Lucario is next, so we swap to Earth Power, knocking it out. Milotic is scary, but we only take it to red, as it, for whatever reason, only opts for Mirror Coat, so even with the heal up, it's now an easy KO without us losing any further HP. Roserade is up, and we continue with Dragon Claw, knocking it out for one shot as well. We hesitate for a long while against Togekiss, trying to remember if it was Fairy type at this point, and of course looking it up by now. Once I realized that we should be safe, keyword, we use Dragon Claw, taking it to yellow, as it only retaliates with a weak Air Slash before going down, winning us the battle and the run. Alright, that was a bit longer than I expected, but I hope that y'all had fun with that run. I didn't expect to use stat boosting as often as I did, but I definitely prefer trying to get good luck with our current moveset rather than over-leveling if I can help it. There's a good chunk of the game that Giratina isn't exactly strong against in this gen, but it was still a lot of fun to use. I put a poll up in Discord, and as of writing and now recording in this script, Chandelure in Pokemon Fire Red is absolutely destroying in the poll I had placed, so that's probably going to be the one that I go with. But I have to record this, get a little editing done, and then head to work. If you want to hang out outside of the YouTube space, check out the Discord, and if you want to see streaming stuff, I do stream on Twitch once a week usually. All those links are going to be down below if you are interested. But in the meantime, if you like the video, even if you didn't like the video, hit the like and subscribe button, because it really does help me out. And until next time, everybody, peace out.